Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Fixate Binge Podcast. It's been another interesting week. I don't like to get too political on this podcast, but what a week it's been. Marjorie Taylor Greene has fallen out with Daddy Trump. The New York City elect Mayor Mom Donnie, a socialist Democrat, is actually high-fiving and hanging out with Trump in the Oval Office. And if I'm not mistaken this morning, I think I also saw some pigs fly. So we are in the twilight zone. This is a weird time to be in America. And if you're a little bit more aware of the politics and the culture, wow, has the world turned upside down lately. In personal news, I have a friend of mine that I met years and years ago when I lived in England. He was an actor with the Royal Shakespeare Company. We got along really well. He's an older gentleman. Hadn't seen him in over 10 years. He rolled into town because he was in a theater production that was touring in Toronto and New York City and Louisiana and everywhere else. And he's in a play called The Woman in Black. And he had a day off, and it's his lifelong dream, bucket list, to see Yosemite National Park. So that's what I did on Tuesday. I went to Yosemite. If anyone from my work is listening to this, as far as you know, I called in sick that day because I was sick. I needed to be in the mountains that day. So I took him to Yosemite National Park. We thought we needed to get there at 6 a.m. No one else was in the park. It was eerie. It was like driving to the Overlook Hotel at the beginning of Kubrick's The Shining. A fresh snow had fallen. We're up at 8,000 feet. It was weird. It was beautiful. And if you follow me on any of my socials, I cobbled together a short video about our experience. Anyway, it was epic. In more related news to this podcast, there's some things I think that you ought to consider watching. If you liked the Finnish film Sisu from 2023, I just watched and had my head blown off by its brilliance and balls to the wall action. Sisu: The Road to Revenge, the sequel. It's just opened up in cinemas. I've written a review. That review happens to be my 300th Letterboxd review, so I'm kind of happy about that. So it stands out for those reasons. But if you need to go to the movies, Sisu: Road to Revenge is a great film. I think even Stephen Lang is just fantastic as the villain in this. So you definitely want to check that out. I have something really exciting for you listeners today. I've really been looking forward to this. We've been in conversation for weeks about this, and it's finally going to happen. And we were originally going to have this podcast last Saturday on the 15th, but we made room for a very special availability for one of our important guests for this podcast. You may not have known this. The 2024 film, it's an indie feature. It's called HELLBENT on Boogie. Now, I watched it on the Tubi app, and Tubi is rife with indie films, but they're also known for a lot of grindhouse horror films. So when I heard the word Hellbent, I thought, oh, this is going to be crazy. This is going to be good. And what I got was something completely different, which was such a surprise. And I am excited. We're going to get into this. We're not going to spoil everything because we want you to watch the film, but I've got the writer and director, Vito, with me. I've got the two stars. I've got the star Shiloh Fernandez and the producer, and I've got newcomer Alyx. Alyx, is it Ruibal or Ruibal? How I say your last name?
It's Ruibal, but honestly, everyone says it differently. So don't worry about it.
Okay, so sorry. Yeah,
You can just make it up. It'll be fun. Everybody has their own way of saying it.
I love that. Alyx Ruibal. I like that. Or Ruibal or Ruibal. We'll just go Alyx R. How about that? Or Alyx. Okay, that sounds even better. And I apologize. Vito, your name is Trupiano. So
Nice, nailed it.
yeah, last name Trupiano. First of all, Alyx, it's just nuts to talk to you outside of the character of Quinn because it's night and day. Sorry,
Thank you.
yeah. I'm like, wow,
It's crazy too. I mean, we'll talk about it more, but
sure.
Vito and I remember the process of it. We were talking about how Quinn, when I originally got cast, he was very much into me being like, it's just me, but with the name Quinn. And then it turned into this whole other thing. Like,
Wow.
it turned into this whole other thing. And it probably started when I tried on her clothes. And then it just like, the character just went to a different place.
Yeah, I think Alyx like naturally she was like picking up techniques and things that like experienced, decades long actors do. And she was just kind of doing it. She said something off the cuff. I'm always watching like interviews and I'm like obsessed with director interviews and stuff. And there's this one of Robert De Niro saying that like he doesn't understand a character until he puts on the shoes. And then Alyx was in the costume or in the fitting room, and then she's like, I really didn't understand until I put on her shoes. Like the shoes really did a lot for me. And I was like, that's funny. Someone else said that. And she just sort of like stumbled upon that feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, a Forrest Gump thing. Where he says, he's like, you don't know. He's like, you can tell a lot about a person by their shoes.
Yeah.
It was like, it reminded me a little bit of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like, I can like feel Quinn like through her shoes.
Yeah. I remember you were saying that like Quinn was like yourself, but without all of the tips and tricks you've learned over the years. And like all of the you've been able to mask and do things.
Yeah. And she was naturally, and the thing about Quinn is like Quinn had like Quinn was like born with more, how do I say this? As a kid, if I met Quinn as a kid, Quinn and I would probably be in different classrooms in terms of like, I would have been, because I was nonverbal as a kid. I didn't talk until I was 5. So I remember when my mom was talking to me about my progress, she was like, the kids who because I ended up doing this program when I was in 7th or 8th grade, where I went to go help out special education kids as somebody who was gen ed. Because at that point I had transitioned more into gen ed classes. I was still in some special ed classes, but I was mostly at that point starting to take more gen ed classes. And I was visiting those classrooms, and she's like, it's so funny. The kids who you were in those classrooms that you went to go visit were considered light years ahead of you as a kid. So Quinn would have been considered light years ahead of me.
Wow. I can't wait to get into more of this. Really fast before we get into this, I just thought I'd open this up, just a random question. Is there anything that any of you are currently fixating on or binging in your streaming or viewing activities that you want to talk about briefly, or just do a plug for?
I can't say anything I've been binging. I've been going to a lot of screenings in LA because they have that out here and it's not a thing in Florida. So I've been consuming a lot of that. There'll be random movies. I've never seen To Live and Die in LA, and I saw that in a theater. And then I also saw Escape from New York, which I've seen before in a theater. But so I've been sort of an 80s out, watching 80s movies in theaters, which is really cool. I don't think To Live and Die in LA would have had the same effect if I saw it like on a streamer. Just seeing it on the big screen, William Friedkin, like it's really goofy for how 80s it is. It's so goofy, but it was so much fun. So I've just been in an 80s mood recently.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anything from you, Shiloh or Alyx?
I haven't. I've got a little baby boy right now, so this is difficult. But I've been reading a book called "The River's Waiting" by this author Wally Lamb. Derek Cianfrance made an adaptation of his book that I Know This Much Is True, and it is. I don't know why I picked it up, because it's about a father who has twins and basically is sort of like loses his job and is home with his twins all the time and starts sort of secretly drinking and accidentally, runs over one of the twins and goes to prison. And so I've sort of been having dreams about this irrational fear that I'll like go to prison.
Oh no!
To have my son visit me in prison. So those have been my binging dreams, unfortunately, but it's a really brilliant, honest book. So I really have been, it's been hard to put that down.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about you, Alyx?
Okay. So I love music. So I've just been, the Youngblood Aerosmith EP came out yesterday, and I've just been having that on repeat. So it's mainly been that. And I've been listening to weirdly enough, I've been feeling the comeback of rock and roll, so I've just been like binging that lately on my car playlist.
That's awesome. That's really cool. One of my guests that I've had on the podcast before is in a relationship with an actress who's a recurring actress on the television show Lincoln Lawyer. So I figured I've been meaning to watch that. That's been sitting in my Netflix queue. I'll start watching it. And then finally his significant other shows up in episodes. I'm all, okay, now we have something to talk about the next time he comes back. So maybe I can get his significant other on the pod. This is great. Thank you very much for sharing all that. I kind of want to just jump right into Hellbent for Boogie and get right to the origins of this. And this question really is for you, Vito, because you wrote and directed this. Am I not mistaken? And this is your debut feature? Is that correct? Full length?
Yeah, I did one when I was like 21 years old. It was like, it's a little under an hour long, so it's not technically a feature. It's about like a jacket going from person to person in Miami. Yeah, for whatever it's worth. I mean, I remember when Shiloh saw it and the investor saw it, they were like, okay, cool. Like, we read the script, we saw something he did before that had some style. And so I think that really kind of gave like credence to getting this project off the ground. But Hellbent on Boogie was like a 4 to 5 year like congealing process of like, I knew the tones and some of like the themes and things I wanted to tackle, but it was like a male lead that was in Miami trying to dance, and there was a hurricane going to hit his hometown in Puerto Rico. And it just sort of like kept morphing. It was because I did my first film, and in a lot of ways I saw it as like a failure. I thought I would go to like a big festival and I would just be directing movies, but then I had to turn around and like work in movies and just like work as crew or like production manager or whatever. And so it took a long time before I got the ending of Hellbent, when I realized I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but like what happens in there at the third act, I was like, oh wait, if she doesn't blank, then there's a much more interesting story that feels way more personal and realistic to what actually happened with me. And then how do you reconciliate after everything you thought you were going for goes away? And then it was like a year of just like actual writing of like treatments. And then I did the actual script in like a week or two, but then It was just constant like constant changes. And it was like the first script I was like really trying to share with producers and like send to family and friends and people be able to read it and understand it as a story instead of just like this cool thing I wanted to do. So it took a long time, but it kind of congealed and more. And even the 2 scripts I'm writing now is the same thing. It's like this long simmering process of like iterations and changes and testing and just really sitting with what it, I don't know, it takes me a while to like write. It's I sit around a lot and think.
I think that's the essence of a good writer, is to make sure you have time to think. I believe me, writing is not easy for me. Even though I do a lot of it, it's not easy, and I'm never happy with the finished product. Even when it's all done and I have to close up shop and say enough to picking at it, I'll look at it and go, I feel like I could still improve it. But
yeah, there's that saying that I heard way before when I was in my 20s, and it scared me. And I think it's unfortunately kind of true. It's like you never really finish something. You just kind of like give up on it at a certain point.
Right.
Like, it seems like there's never something you can't change or tweak or go back and redo. But at a certain point, yeah. And then some separation helps. You got to separate.
I think the same thing could probably be true. And I don't know, Shiloh, if this is if you're a first-time father. Are you a first-time father here? Oh man, congratulations. I was going to say, when it comes to raising kids, it's the same ethos. It's the same feeling, Vito. It's like, I always feel like I could have done a little better because there's more to impart. There's more to help refine. And yet it's
tell them that when they're 18. Like.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, it's learning. You have to just let go. And then you have to just accept the end result and own it, I guess. That's crazy. I was very, very interested because I think the nucleus of this film, and by the way, to our listeners who have no idea what we're talking about, Hellbent for Boogie is a 2024 indie film. It's set in a small kind of community, kind of an enclosed community somewhere in Florida, outside of the city, in rural Florida. It is a small town story told with an enormous amount of heart. It is not a horror film, despite my watching it on the Mubi platform, a Tubi platform rather, and it is heartwarming. I said in my review that it reminded me at times of Gilbert Grape, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and Little Miss Sunshine. I kind of felt like it was a cousin. There's definitely a similar theme going on there, which I loved. And both those films are fantastic. They remain some of my favorite films. And so your film struck a chord. But what struck a chord with me more than anything, and I think you were going for this and you knocked it out of the park, was the sibling dynamic between Alan and Quinn, the brother and sister relationship. Because I've got 3 kids, and I've got a son and 2 daughters. And the sibling, I wish that sometimes the sibling dynamic between my kids was the same as it was in Hellbent on Boogie. But I wanted to ask, I'll get off my soapbox here for you, Vito. I wanted to ask, was there anything in your personal experience that fed into that dynamic between Alan and Quinn in your film? Was there any personal experiences that you drew on for that?
I mean, I have a brother. I feel like I'm always writing siblings. Like no matter the story, I've tried to write so many scripts, and there's always somehow a sibling story finds its way into there. And then I'm Italian, so I had a lot of cousins that were basically like extended siblings. So I think I just kind of pulled from the tapestry of those experiences. Nothing in particular. I mean, I have family members and stuff that are artistic, but I don't think anything like was specific from that, but it was more of like a feeling. But yeah, siblings are just somehow always find their way into my stories, it seems.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Just a general question. This question is for any of you. Was there anything in the production that surprised you? Like you go in, obviously we have our expectations. We hope it comes off the way we want. But was there anything that during the production you were pleasantly surprised by? I'll try and keep it positive. Pleasantly surprised by things that may have exceeded your expectations during this production.
There was, I've done movies of all sort of sizes, and sort of this one may have been the smallest in terms of like the budget of the film. But yeah, Vito's first like short or sort of medium length film was super unique, had a real sort of a unique feel to it that felt very him. So it was sort of easy to trust him, but it was also super overwhelming and hard to make a movie with the constraints that he had. And the fact is, he really had to sort of let go and just see sort of follow what the movie was able to be. And by the end of filming, the last night we were shooting, or the last night that I was there, it felt like we had some kind of movie, and that, whatever it was, maybe we didn't know what it was, or it wasn't the same as what the script was. But that was a really sort of special feeling that I wasn't leaving, at least, feeling like, this one isn't going to be good, or we kind of screwed it up or whatever. And, the post process took a very, very long time. And that also was sort of another lesson of like, we had to do multiple cuts. We had to find different people to sort of look at it, and a real sort of collaboration at the end. And to watch Vito sort of, over these years, just like have to let go of what his original sort of version was maybe, and to really sort of grow with the movie was incredibly beautiful to watch for me.
Wow. Yeah. That's really cool. I've had other actors that have come on, and a lot of them say, I have no sense if the movie's going to be good. There have been electrical charged moments of some of the scenes we've had. The script's been great, and you hope that it comes together, but to have a sense that it was some kind of a movie, even before post-production was done, is I think that's a testament. That's a big testament to your skill as a writer and a director as well, Vito, to use the resources you had access to, and to give your talent and experience that left them feeling like you actually had something. That's impressive. For a debut film, for a feature film, that's impressive. I don't know if there was anything you wanted to say to that.
No, I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, I think I'm not as experienced. Shiloh's done so many films, so I haven't done.
Yeah.
I would say it was more of like, there's so many people bringing their talent to the project. So
Yeah.
like I knew from the start, it was like, if I don't have a solid Quinn, to where there was a point where we said, if we lose some of the financing and we have $20,000 to $50,000, can I go out and still make the movie? And I was like, yes, I will do a Safdie Brothers
Yeah.
pseudo documentary type thing with Alyx, because we're observing mannerisms rather than like making them artificial. And so like there was always that, but then getting Shiloh on, the experience from being able to, I mean, and the humbleness to like be setting up chairs for Crafty, and then also like helping with like coverage. Like, hey, I have 3 to 4 shots I'd like to do here. I don't think, and Shiloh's like, well, if we do it from there, we might be able to get a few here. It's like, oh shit, he's absolutely right. Like, and then, you know, just experience. But I mean, to that, I just knew even before, and doing my own projects, you make the movie 3 times. It just, I can't seem to find a way around that. Like, you will write it and it's going to be something on the paper. Then you're going to go and shoot it. And on the day, who the hell knows? I mean, we had the John Farley scene in the car at the end, which is sort of like packaging of the tone, I think, in a lot of ways, of like, how should you feel coming away from this movie? I think it's like his flippant response to something that seems like a really big problem is sort of the tone of the film. And it rained that day, and we were going to be screwed. And then it just stayed a drizzle for like 5 hours. So we could shoot the scene, and it's just slightly raining, and it's perfect. I would have written it for it to be raining, like, and then it just was. So those things that just sort of happen, and then you go with them. And then the edit, I mean, like all the greats have said it, like the only difference between film and the other mediums is the editing process. And so you're doing it again. You're remaking the movie again. Now you have what was originally written, so you try to like get towards that as much as you can, but that you have different footage, and you might find a better movie in the footage. I think Sean Baker approaches it like that. Like, he just goes away and he'll come back a year or two later and edit the film as though it's a documentary, as though like, this is the footage I have. How do I find a story within here? I like also working like that. I like discovering things. I feel like you can get more honesty and truth, and things will just sort of like default into grooves that are maybe more natural, rather than trying to contrive things, control them as much. So yeah, but I mean, it's scary though as a first time, because yeah, I spent 5 years writing, and it was like, it's going to be this perfect thing, and you just, the universe just wants it to not be made in every possible way. No matter the movie, no matter the scale, whether it's big or small, like, the universe is just going to find ways to ruin it. So
Yeah.
being able to be flexible and just straight up smart, just be intelligent to know, like, what can I lean on? What can I not use? Can I lose that location and do this other thing instead? Like, that's part of the process. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. But I also think it's kind of fun. I like discovering things. There's a lot of fun little discoveries that you'll have. And again, we had like a multiple people edit the movie, and each iteration changed something or revealed something. And then we took that into the final. So it eventually got back to script. I'd say Brian Schofield did a really terrific job of editing a film back to getting it close to script. But there's still things in there that was kept from other edits. So
Got it.
It's a discovery process, but I like it though. I mean,
Wow.
think, yeah, it's fun.
That's such a great way to explain it. And one of the things I like about it is your pliancy, your malleability of, don't have such a rigid idea in your head of what it has to be. It might surprise you and become something else that you didn't expect it to be. Shiloh, you've done a lot of film. Alyx, we're going to get to you. I promise. I can't wait to bring you in.
I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm just here. I'm loving it.
Awesome. I'm loving it too. I could sit here and listen to Vito and Shiloh just chat away all the, I know you guys don't have that kind of time, but Shiloh, you've done a lot of films. Vito said it earlier. You've done a lot of films. You just came back from, and I know that you probably can't talk about all of it. You just completed from overseas a huge film, which I want to ask you a very brief question about. And if you can't talk about it, it's okay. But you've done a lot of film. What drew you to the character in this film, in this indie film of Alan? What about that attracted you to this project as a producer and an actor in this?
Yeah, our mutual friend Pantera Sarah, who when I moved to Los Angeles and I was like 19, ran a lot of doors at different like clubs and stuff, and somehow was super sweet to me, and is really one of the most generous, sort of open people I've ever known. She, has been in Hollywood forever, and I've always sort of been like, why aren't you making movies? You know everybody, you could connect everybody. So she reached out to me, and that was really exciting. And then and reading it, the films you mentioned, sort of that are cousins to this movie, also films that I love. And the sibling relationship, the idea of leaving home when you're 18 and sort of coming back. I have siblings that are much younger than me, so I was sort of out of the house and didn't live with them and watch them grow up, and you come home and they're just different people. They're adults, and you sort of have this vision in your mind of them being little kids still. And so all of those things really drew me to it, and and I loved the character that Alyx was playing. I thought that was incredible, sort of the home life. I'm from a very small rural town, so there's a lot of sort of parallels to my own life that I thought I could sort of bring to it. And then I actually got to meet Alyx before we started shooting. We sort of did a little rehearsal. And there's, if you meet Alyx, you'll want to spend as much time with her as possible, and
Thank you.
So those were all the things that sort of drew me to it, as well as Vito's other movie and the script, obviously. Yeah.
That's great. That's really good. It sounded like Vito's script really struck a chord with you. There was an authenticity, a realness to it. But it also sounds like you're drawing on experiences you had in your personal history as well. Were there any was there any challenges to playing a character? And by the way, for our listeners out there, Alan is a very interesting character. I mean, I referred to you as a Dickensian character, kind of a slick, streetwise type of gamester, a guy that, I mean, you probably have a PhD in how to get by on the streets. You're very street smart, which is equally funny. I mean, there's funny moments, especially the diner scene at the very beginning. You eat this wonderful meal and then you just leg it out of the diner, which I've always wanted to do that, but I've never wanted a warrant for my arrest. But there was just so many. I felt like your character, and I don't even know if there's a question here. I felt like your character, and you played this so well, Shiloh. I felt like your character was so spontaneous, probably didn't know what he was going to do the next day, lived day for day, lived in the moment, and did everything so spontaneously that your return to that community literally unsettles the entire little mobile home park community. Because you're so unpredictable. Did you draw on any personal experiences? Was there anything in your bad boy background maybe that drew you to Alan?
I don't think I have a bad boy background, but
okay.
But the street smart thing, it's like I don't know. I think, yes, there's a part of that, but he clearly wasn't very good at it. As much as that was his sort of ethos or whatever, like he wasn't very good at it. So that sort of reminds me of myself a little bit, is of thinking that maybe you're better at things than you actually are. And part of it being that, being like, in my late teens and deciding that I wanted to be an actor and feeling like, how do you sort of go about doing that? I think it's a lot of sort of BS and being a little bit more confident than you actually are, or overselling your skills. And so all of those things sort of come into play. It's sort of like, that's just what I was doing. You sort of fake it till you make it. And that's sort of the idea. And then there's also, we don't know anything about his dad. It was his dad. He probably gets a lot from his father, like who is his dad. So, that was sort of it, and I wish I had that kind of like energy. I just don't have that energy. To be able to get up every day and to have a new scheme or a new plan. Like I wish that I was that sort of, energetic. So those were all things that I really loved about it.
That's awesome. Really quickly, I wanted to ask you just, if I'm not mistaken, if my if the internet tells the truth, and sometimes it doesn't, but if I'm not mistaken, you just returned from filming in Greece Sir Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. You have a small part in this. You just returned from filming this with Matt Damon and all these other huge, recognizable Hollywood stars, as well as yourself. What was that experience like? I mean, as vaguely as you can explain it without violating any non-disclosure agreements or whatever.
For sure. Yeah, you do sign those when you do that movie. But I was actually in Morocco, so I got to be there for the first like 5 weeks of the shoot. And it was sort of, everything you could imagine. Just an incredible experience. And I'm super grateful that he allowed me to come out there and participate. It was really just mind blowing, and I think the movie will be really, really special. Just an incredible adaptation of one of the most, sort of well-known and incredible stories that we still sort of, have day to day here. So yeah, it was really special. And at the same time, I can say that like he works, though it's a gigantic film with a huge budget, he's so hands-on, it feels like an indie movie. It really did. The sort of specificity to details and how hands-on he is. It was really an incredible experience because it wasn't just a billion people and sort of a machine. He's the one that's really in charge, making all the decisions and very hands-on, which was cool.
Wow. That is really great. It's on my list of the most anticipated films of 2026. I think all of us on this call are looking forward to seeing it. We'll all probably cheer a little bit inside. Hey, there he is. There's Shiloh. That's his bit. That's awesome. So
yeah. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I didn't. Last but not least, clearly not least, is Alyx. And Alyx, thank you for waiting patiently with this. I've
just been entertained. I've been entertained.
Yeah, that's great.
Biggest round of applause to Shiloh. I'm so excited to watch The Odyssey.
Yes, yeah.
You'll catch me in the theater with like a foam finger with your face on it.
Everybody behind you will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can stand up and say, "We played siblings, brother and sister, in a movie." No, really. Can you tell me a little bit, Alyx, of because this is your debut film?
Yes.
So this is your first step into a wider world, and can you tell me a little bit about what your audition was like? How you came across this project?
It almost didn't happen.
Okay.
Like my audition, because I thought it was a scam. So I got an email on like a random Friday night. I was just a girl making TikToks in her bedroom. And I got an email on a random Friday night saying that he was a director wanting to make a movie and he wanted me to audition for it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if that's real. So I didn't get back to it and I didn't respond. And also at the time, like I was still growing as like, my audience wasn't as big as it is now. So at the time I was getting all these emails about like emails that were kind of scams. And a lot of times like with people with smaller platforms, they get a lot of those emails of like people trying to scam them, people trying to make like, sometimes it's like bad brand deals. Sometimes it's all these things. Or it's a lot of scams.
Right.
They try and take advantage of people with smaller platforms trying to grow. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't really know what this is, but I'm not sure about it. So I just didn't get back. And then about a week later, I get a follow-up email and it's a list of people attached to the film. And so I start looking it up and I'm like, oh, wait, this is like actually something. And I'm like, oh, wait, I should probably get back to this. And I was like, there's no way it's going to happen. I'm like, I've never done this. So I was like, I'm probably up for like, they're probably going to cast me as like, I thought they were considering me for like Ryan's character, which is like the director and choreographer, because I was dancing a lot at the time. So I thought that's what I was up for. I did not think I was actually up for Quinn until I had submitted my self-tape. Yes, the self-tape was for Quinn, but I was like, oh, they're going to have me read for Quinn and then they're going to call me back for whatever they want me for. If that happens, I was like, that's probably not even going to happen. And then he gets back to me about a Zoom call. We get on the Zoom call and he tells me that I'm up for Quinn. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, yeah, but this isn't probably going to happen. So I submit more self-tapes and I pick another scene. He has me read 2 scenes and then and then the second round, I got to pick another one. And then I had to choreograph and submit a dancing clip to show, I think it was, you said it, Vito, it was like for you and it was for like production and investors. And so I submitted all of that. And then I did that probably like 1 or 2 more times, I think it was. And then you had me come out to LA to come read. And at the time, another actor was cast as Alan. And they had me read with somebody else who was also up for Rachel. And they had me read there. And mind you, I, again, no idea what was going on. My parents still were on the fence. They were like, is she going to get trafficked? Like, and mind you, like my parents are coming up to the house, like in their car. And I get out of the car and Gregory, our producer, just jumps in the back and my parents are like, who is this? Gregory's like giving directions as to where to park. And my parents, by the way, did not come in the house. They were like, actually, we're just gonna like go and we're gonna go shopping because we want her. We don't want to distract her.
Well, I remember you brought the dog. I got to meet your dog.
Yeah, you guys got to meet Mustang. He's a little terror.
Mustang. Yeah.
And yeah, he just and then after a long day of chemistry reads and reading, and then they told me I got the part at the end of the day. After lots of reading and lots of camera tests and all of that. And then I was like still a little bit nervous, probably like a month. This was like 2 months. This was 2 months later because I got the part June 12th. August 8th was when I met Shiloh. And then, so it was like 2 months later. And I was like, you know what? And I remember Gregory giving my parents a talk of like, oh, things change all the time in film. He's like, if you don't know, like things change all the time. And mind you, he was mainly talking about Alan. But I was like a little nervous. I was like, oh, wait, this might also mean me too. So I meet Shiloh and I'm like, okay, so like, yeah, I'm like, this needs to go well. But also I was also totally nervous, but also not nervous at the same time. Because the second I get there, Shiloh just like is talking about baseball. And I'm just like, oh, I'm going to like this person. We're going to be good. We're going to be good. We were just like, so, because the problem was I had seen Shiloh already on my screen from Gossip Girl. And I had tried to do research on absolutely nobody. The thing is I didn't want to know who a single person was. Like, I can't have that much pressure on my shoulders. But the thing was, I had already seen Shiloh on my screen before and I had known his face. And I was like, so that was the only thing that made me a little bit nervous. And then I met him and I was like, oh wait, he's like really cool. And mind you, I had no idea any of the other projects he had been in or the fact that he was like this insanely seasoned, experienced actor. So I was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, how's it going? We're talking about baseball. We're talking about the Giants. We're talking about my brother who also plays baseball. And yeah, and it turned into something. And I met Emily and we had an amazing read as well. And it just, yeah, that was my audition process. Longer story than probably it needed to be, but.
No, that's okay. It's, that's so interesting to hear that. I mean, the energy and the excitement and the wonder. I remember I did a film with ages ago in the 90s and it ended up having Chuck Norris in it. And I was on set for 6 days with Chuck Norris. And and it was just weird. But a lot of your energy and excitement talking about you being in your first film brought me back to my experience where I'm just like standing around looking at all these famous people and all these action stars. And I'm just like, what the heck?
Wow, you're just like me.
Yeah. I'm like, whoa. So thank you for sharing that. I thought I'd ask though, was there anything, were there any parts of the character of Quinn that were most personal to you?
I think it was the part of Quinn that really hit home was this feeling of like, I think it's something this happens, of course, to like so many different people, but I think it's a trait that's like really particular to autistic people. And it's something that really drew me to Vito's script. And really, I think oftentimes autism can be captured incorrectly. And I think something that felt so authentic to Vito's script, and as an autistic person myself, I was like kind of sensitive to it. But it was something that made me feel a lot of trust in the script, was that Quinn, there's like autistic people, a lot of times people don't realize that they're doing it, but this feeling of like, because we're kind of the last to pick up on things, people sometimes don't even realize that they're using it to their advantage. Or that they're using it to their benefit. And you kind of see in Quinn's story, like, whether she's the last to know about her disability, she's the last to kind of know that her life is her choice. She's the last to, like, she kind of is under the influence of everybody. And I don't want to give away like what happens, so I'm not going to say.
Sure.
But she's the last to kind of pick up on things, and whether like her mother kind of has her own motives with her, and low-key so does Alan. Like Alan is kind of in it for the money for a little bit, and she doesn't pick up, on like maybe even like just certain aspects of things, and because of that it's easy to manipulate people, and it's easy to make people do what you want them to do. And they might be well-intended, but like they don't even realize they're doing it. And it was just so well written into the script. And it was something I related to a lot, because I realized that so many people in my life, they love me and they want to do right by me. But because I don't see those things all the time myself, it does happen. And it's like a very, like it's hard to capture, and Vito wrote it so well.
Thank you for that. I will tell you, one of my children has autism. He's extremely high functioning. I didn't really want to make that big of a deal about it in my review, but that was something I think that we need to talk about really briefly here. I would just like to mention it, Vito, and I don't know how you feel about it as well, Shiloh. There was something extremely authentic about the way that Alyx's character was written. I was like, somebody understands autism in this portrayal and the way this character has been written. And I can say that as a parent of somebody with autism. I very much loved that. And that's not a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the film, not at all. But I think that deserves its own special praise, because you did it so well. And I'm so glad that you felt that represented, I think, some of the experiences you could relate to as well, Alyx. So just a general comment there. Yeah.
That means so much. I mean, it was such a core foundation, and part of it is something I said early was like from the inside out instead of from the outside in. Like, how can I get these things across? And I think it is things like when she's in the car and she's trying to finally get to the bottom, like, what happened to Dad? I've heard things I don't really know. It's like her journey of catching up. And then to the point where I'd say the point, I don't really like to break it down like this, but the epiphany of the movie, or like sort of the point, is that she just crosses the street and chooses to do something for herself. The way I pitched it to everyone, all the producers, because there was like, whose story is there? I was always, my main or not gripe, but like criticism with the script, or like, who's the main character? I was like, well, I think it's Alan, but he really is the tornado that
Yeah.
rips through to open the birdcage that is Quinn's like little birdcage. Like he just causes, he rips through and destroys everything, but in doing so, just opens the door somewhere in her mind to say like, I want to do this job and I'm going to just do it. I'm just going to go for that thing I want to do. And then in a lot of ways, it's like, I mean, I'm always writing like opposites. So Quinn and Alan were like a way for me to split my own brain and to like talk to myself about suicide, ambition, trauma. And so like when they're having discussions with themselves, it's like me trying to air things out with myself. And so where Alan is like black and white, where it's like when things don't go right, his whole world is over. And it's because of his past and what happened with his father. But then Quinn is like, because of her, because she's sort of been let back, she's not in the same traumatic state as everyone else. So when things don't go wrong, she's still like, well, it's fine. Like all she really wants is just Alan around. So
Yeah.
when it doesn't go right, it's not the end of her world, but it's the end of Alan's because his scheme just ended and he's got nowhere to go. And so he's got this like sort of like I forget the word, but it's like this permanent feeling, which is a lot of like dealing with suicide and stuff. It's this feeling of like, if this thing doesn't go right, then that's it. It's done. It's over. It's curtains.
Mm.
Whereas like Quinn is able to like kind of let things fall off her shoulder in a way. So but again, he needs to rub off on her a little bit. She needs to do things for herself a little bit. So that if there is a point to the story, it's just that little bit of motion that happens within the character, which is why it's like a character driven movie. The movie ends when she comes to that point. And then yeah. And then him coming back over the thing is always, it's just the cyclical nature of storytelling in general, I think.
Well, I really thank you for that, Vito. I mean, your metaphor is absolutely right. I mean, and Shiloh, I definitely want you to jump in here. We're going off the script, as it were, but the metaphor you gave of, the character of Alan comes and opens up Quinn's. Opens up the birdcage, as it were, and of course I'm thinking of Maya Angelou's "I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings," but mixing metaphors and things. But that's such a good image for exactly what happens. And by the way, there's no spoiler here, but it is Alan coming into Quinn's world and recognizing she is in a cage. She is tethered from maybe reaching her potential or maybe having a different experience. And because Alan's character comes from beyond this community, I mean, that's the thing I thought that was really clever about Hellbent on Boogie was that it's almost like a blissful purgatory. Everyone's kind of enclosed in this little bubble, this little community, which acts like a bubble, and Alan's character, I mean, Shiloh, your character is you've been beyond this other world, as it were, and you're coming in with this radical notion of, hey, there's a whole world outside of the trailer park. You can dream bigger. You don't have to live in this cage. And I loved that your character put aside some of your schemes and things that you were doing, and you just became an older brother again to Quinn. And I thought that was heartfelt. I thought it was genuine. And that's where the film clicked for me when when Alan and Quinn came together and Alan decided, I'm going to invest in Quinn having an experience and reaching for something that she didn't know that she could actually grasp. I don't know. It's not a question. It's more like riffing, a comment. Totally. Yeah. Sorry, totally. Shiloh.
No, totally. And I think like for me as an actor, it's sort of like, what the way Vito describes it is really sort of perfect. And but I don't think like, in making the movie, in the process of sort of like playing the character, that you can have this bigger vision of he's this tornado that comes through. You know what I mean? It's sort of like a little bit like, that's how do I process that? And how would I make that happen? But also to go back to just sort of the portrayal of autism, I thought, it was like another conversation that I remember hearing is sort of like, is this a movie about autism or whatever? And my experience, I have, a sibling with some challenges, and what I really appreciated about this movie was that it was really just sort of for me a family sort of dealing with this thing, and there's a spectrum, and so everybody's experience is different. And so I imagine different families have different struggles with things, and to see this particular family dealing with how this situation sort of unfolded for them, and to sort of just take a look at it, and maybe other families like your own who can watch this and sort of say, yeah, you know, this is really hard because you know, people don't necessarily understand, and it's such a personal experience every day that we're going through and trying to sort of figure this out and manage this, and whether the, you know, mom is trying to do what's right for her but it's not correct, like Alyx said, or the brother is. It's just, that's what is so, I think, really sort of at the core of what I think makes this movie special, which is sort of the individuality of this particular family's sort of dynamic and what they're going through, and they're all sort of trying, and that I thought was really done really, really beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the operative word for me that stood out there, Shiloh, is trying, because you're looking at a family, and the pieces. I think that I like the style here, Vito, and the way you've written it. That you don't just spoon feed whatever, you know, the backstory of this family. It unfolds subtly. It unfolds. You eventually, through interactions with some of the characters, you end up finding out that there was severe trauma that happened to this broken family, and then we're seeing the aftermath, the results of a terrible thing that happened before the film begins. We're seeing the effect it has on Alan's character. We're seeing the effect it has on their mother, and then the way that the community and the mother is trying to protect Quinn from any form of that trauma. I thought that was just genius. I really do think that was just excellently executed in the writing and the way this thing unfolds beautifully, slowly. It's just great. No question there.
No, I would say Alyx was a huge part of that, because you can only do so much research and have so much personal experience before it needs to be handed over. And I think that'd be the biggest surprise to me, was just the entire process. Alyx was like, from the chemistry, from the getting the first Zoom, when I cast, I got a weird thing. I didn't realize I did it until much later. I listened, like even with like Shiloh's, or I'll like close my eyes and listen, and I heard her voice, and I was like, oh, there it is. And then it was just constant, like concrete. It just got more and more solidified that like this is Quinn, to the point where I think she took Quinn away in a good way, and like added her own experiences and came at it from a personal place. And I just like, I'd rather work like that. I'd rather work with like truth and just like what's the best, most authentic thing. There's just, we had so long, we had an actor drop out because of a Hallmark movie that like took my whole crew, so we had to push a month. And then again, you make your movie 3 times. Like I had a whole different actor, and in hindsight, like the movie will make itself, like it's gonna turn out the way it needs to be if you're just constantly trying and killing yourself. That's, you know what I mean? There's no way around that. You have to be constantly stretching. But Shiloh is Alan for me. It's like it was much better than it was, just is different than what it would have been, so it turned out better. But anyways, Alyx, though, bringing her real experiences, learning more about her, and talking with her parents and what they went through, and realizing through specificity, like, where is this particular family? And again, hearing things like when Alyx said like, oh, Quinn doesn't have the mechanisms I have developed through years of therapy, and parents that are constantly being conscious about this and going through bad therapy, bad experiences, and learning from that. And then you're able to turn around and say, okay, how do I fill in Quinn with these things? And so whether it be the way she does stuff with her hands, like you'll just notice when she's tense, yeah, she just is, it's like a masking technique thing. And there's like little things that Alyx would say, was like, she has a hard time looking people in the eyes. There's a lot of people autistic do, so she'll like look at different spots, things like that. And if you just watch certain elements, those are things I don't necessarily have to like direct. It's inherent in how Alyx is. And then she just adds a little spice and things to make it the character, to separate herself. And even like the dancing, because Quinn is not as good as a dancer as Alyx is in real life. And obviously with what happens with the plot, she can't be this like amazing actor. So there's like a separation that has to happen. I think what was most surprising for me, because Waste Case was my first film, and I didn't never really casted actors. I casted real people to play themselves. So Simone is not an actor. She was somebody that was around the retreat when I was just there location scouting. And her daughter had passed away recently, and she was in a very vulnerable state. And I saw something in her, and had her read with her daughters. She thought maybe one of her daughters, but she held through the whole process and played the mother. I think if we had more time,
Wow.
I could have casted somebody, but I thought she did great. She was a first time actor. I like the energy of like the realism and stuff. So having Shiloh come from, LA to then meet a few first time, not even actors, like they'd never, like Alyx had never been in front of a camera to pretend to be another person. The mother had never even thought in her wildest dreams somebody would want to have her act. And then here comes Shiloh and he's like giving them acting lessons. But I'd say that, like, back to the point, the biggest surprise though was Alyx, I think, and how much she added to the character. And then in a certain way, how much I was able to like let go. Like it was like take after take, she was just nailing it. And then she would understand continuity. She would understand the script better than me and the script supervisor. And then like it turned into something where she was the rock. It was like, okay, we'll do a few scenes on, I think, remind me of how it was at Shiloh and Alyx. I think we always did like Simona last, just to like run the scene a lot for her to sort of get into the rhythm, and then her coverage would be last. I think we would start on Shiloh to like set the tone for the scene, and then we'd move to Alyx and then Simona for like their coverage. And Alyx was always like 2 or 3 takes, and it was just like at a certain point I forgot. And I was ready. Because the whole point of the thing too was like this accordion I wanted to do, where the movie starts very voyeuristic. We're very far away physically with the lenses, and as the movie goes on, we get closer and closer and closer until we're in like handheld. So it's like we go from outside to in. And my main concern was the acting. I was like, I want to be far away with the camera, so there's not this big piece of machinery in Alex's face trying to act. And then again, I could have had a werewolf behind that camera and it would not have mattered. Like she was not phased, or at least didn't show it. And so I think those were the surprising things, was how much of a rock she was, and how much of like what I was worried about from the beginning was like, if you're going to cast if you're going to have an autistic character, I wanted somebody to be autistic to play it, 'cause especially at this low budget. But then I was trying to morph the entire set to be like conscientious of her performance. And then it turned out that she was the rock. Like, I didn't need any of that conscientious thinking, like in hindsight. But anyway, so yeah, I think Alyx was the biggest surprise in adding a lot to that, because I can only do so much research and so many personal experiences before she comes in and fills it in with her own. And then again, you keep changing scenes and stuff.
Wow. Alyx, I think that car that you're in might just float up out of the sky. I mean, you've got to be on cloud 9 listening to that.
I'm so flattered between everything Shiloh's been saying and Vito's been saying. I'm like, wow, thank you. Thank you.
My wife and I are very critical about the way autism is depicted in entertainment. We're very critical, as I suspect most parents are. Maybe your parents are, Alyx. Critical when they get it wrong. We're a little annoyed. We think that's going to misinform. That bothers me.
Yeah.
That's going to misinform. It's going to create expectations. Anybody seeing that, especially if the film is super popular or the television show is super popular, it's going to create expectations out there that are unrealistic or false, and that hurts the community. So when I watched Hellbent on Boogie, and by the way, Alyx, I didn't know that you had autism.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
I didn't. It's been revealed on this podcast. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have mattered if you were or weren't to me. I mean, I'm glad that you're representing, because the way the character is played, I knew that somebody, whether it was Vito or yourself, was contributing a perspective that was real to what autism is. Thank you. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, man, you did so good. You did so good. Shiloh, is there anything is there another film project or something we could talk about that you're working on? Or
yeah, to be honest, I think I'm really excited to see what Vito does next. Like he obviously took a long time with this movie, and this movie turned out to be sort of a gem, and so I'm really excited to see what he's writing and what he's working on, and what he'll do next. That's the most exciting end of this conversation.
Well, that's kind of where I was going to take it, is what is next for all of you. So after the success of Hellbent on Boogie, what is next for the three of you? I mean, I'll start with you, Alyx, because we started the other way around. I'll start with you. What's next for you?
I've just I've been auditioning more recently. I was actually talking to Vito about this. I've had like a lot of personal stuff go on in my life like the last few years, and I haven't known how to talk about it, like between social media, like I just haven't known how to talk about it. And I had this dream a couple of years ago. And it sort of catapulted like a major decision I made in my life. And I decided, and I was like toying around with like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I only have remembered like 5 dreams in my entire life, mind you, like from front to back. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why. It's like I've maybe remembered 5 dreams entirely. I've remembered pieces of a lot of my dreams, but from beginning to end, I've only remembered like 5. And I was like, what do I do? I'm like, I have this idea. And I remember Gregory and Vito on set telling me, they're like, I think you would make a good writer. And so I am, and I've been so thankful that Shiloh and Emily referred me to Michael, who I've been reaching out to, starting to reach out to about this, and who is now my management. But yes, I have been starting to the beginning processes of writing a script.
Nice. Great.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
So
that's
yeah,
really cool.
I've been doing auditioning, but I think I'm onto something here about this project. And so I'm really excited to get writing and to build this world. And I was telling Vito about it a little bit before the podcast. And I think I'm onto something here.
I'll bet you are. I'll bet you are. You have great instincts. Clearly, you have great instincts in the film. Clearly, what you brought was just a natural instinct to an awareness of your character. And if you feel, I trust you. If you've got a good idea for a screenplay, if based on how you performed as Quinn, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. I'd love to have you back to talk about
even
that.
If it goes nowhere. I'm just so excited to like put it on paper.
No, that's great. That's fantastic. And that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Excited for you, Alyx. Shiloh, anything you've done recently or other than the giant Trojan horse size elephant in the room for the Odyssey, anything else that you feel comfortable talking about that you're looking forward to or projects you're on?
Speaking of like writing, I've been lucky enough to tinker on a couple scripts with some buddies, and there's an author who I love named Jodi Angel who's written some couple books of short stories, and she wrote her first novel came out maybe last year called The Biggest Little Girl. So I'm really kind of hoping to adapt that novel into a screenplay and make that movie. And then we'll see what's next. Yeah, besides that.
Awesome. And Vito, I'll echo what Shiloh said earlier. What are you working on next? Because I'm very interested.
Yeah, I think we're all writing here. Alyx's story is really cool, by the way. She did tell me about it. It's very cool concept, very exciting. And the way she's going about writing it is already pretty smart. But I got 2 different ones. I have one that's like a larger budget, ambitious thing, action comedy, and then one that's a smaller, more like thriller that has to deal with aliens because I'm obsessed. Like UAPs and stuff. So I've been simmering forever. I think I told Shiloh about one of them like 2 years ago. I'm still bashing away at them, just eagerly trying to make it right in the cave so I can share it and then try to go through the mountain climbing process that is like trying to get another movie made. I mean, it's like starting a small business every time. So, I'm close though. I'm really excited about how close I am on both of I haven't done a tandem like this before where I'm writing back and forth on 2 different scripts at 2 different sizes, but there's something really nice about it. You like palette cleanse going from one to the other and they're different enough. So, but yeah, trying to finish those up so I can move and then still doing marketing and things for HELLBENT because it is like an indie gem. So it's something you discover. So just still trying to put in the work to make it discoverable. But yeah.
Well, that's great. I think in my own small way here with this podcast, it really is a diamond in the rough. I primarily focus on indie filmmakers. I have a lot of indie filmmakers that come on. I've had a few that have, debuted their work at South by Southwest, and I loved your film. I believe, and maybe it's because I have tunnel vision and I mostly just deal with indie filmmakers, but it really does feel like independent filmmaking is having a moment that it hasn't had in a while. It also feels like the last great cinematic landscape that actually is willing to take risks and tell original stories and not workshop them for test audiences, but tell an original story, warts and all, is indie filmmaking. You guys aren't trying to make a blockbuster film. You're not trying to work with a $200 million budget and get a 5 times return. So you're not test screening it and all that necessarily. And that's why I think indie filmmaking is the last great medium for original stories that take risks and tell something that you might not have expected. And that's what I love so much about Hellbent on Boogie, was that it has an unpredictable trajectory. It goes places you might not expect. It subverts your expectations. But that is real life. That is the real world lived experience. Man makes plans and God laughs. And that's the way it is. We have dreams, and sometimes they end, and sometimes they die, or sometimes they're the door to a bigger world and other opportunities. I tend to go off on little diatribes like this. So I've really very much enjoyed speaking with you, Vito, and you, Shiloh, and you, Alyx. Vito, my father worked for NASA for 17 years, so I'm right with you. I'm excited to see what your project is. I hope that gets off the ground, no pun intended. So UAPs, I would love.
NASA.
Oh my gosh.
Keep it
Yes.
on me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, my dad has told me a couple wild stories.
Okay, we'll have a separate Zoom meeting then.
Yeah, we'll have to have one.
Yeah.
We'll have to have one. He's told me some pretty wild stories. And he's telling the truth. So anyway, well, listen, Vito, Shiloh, and Alyx, thanks so much for your time this Saturday morning, for joining me to talk about your wonderful 2024 film, Hellbent on Boogie. It is available to watch, I believe, on Apple, Amazon, Tubi, Mubi, anywhere. You can watch this wonderful film if you're a parent of a child with neurodivergence or any kind, if they're on the spectrum of any kind. This is an authentic and heartfelt portrayal by newcomer Alyx Ruibal.
Alyx R.
Alyx R. We'll just go with. I'm so sorry, Alyx. I'll get that right eventually.
It's the fun of it. It's the fun of it.
Thank you very much for being so generous with my horrible pronunciations of people's last names. Thank you.
It's better than most.
Okay, good. Can't wait to see what happens for you next year with Christopher Nolan, Shiloh, and congratulations again on being a new dad. That is, oh man, wow.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being so kind and for bringing us on, saying such nice things and letting us talk about this movie. Really, really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you again, hopefully down the road. Yeah, thank you.
I would definitely love that. Thank you so much again for your time. The last thing I like to say before we close up a podcast is, my listeners will know that I've struggled with my personal mental health. Some are struggling and fighting battles a lot bigger than my own. If anyone is listening to this and you're struggling, especially during the holiday season, as we're approaching this, we're in the holiday season now. Being alone is not good for you. Not being around the people that support and love and need you in their lives, that's not good for you either. So be good to yourself when you look in the mirror. Be kind to the person staring back. Don't be so hard on yourself. The world is hard enough. Don't join in. Okay? Be good to yourself, and you'll find that your burdens become a little bit lighter. With that, I'll let you guys go. I'll see you guys next week on a new episode of the Fixate and Binge podcast. Goodbye.